Only one seat left at the table for the second round. Welcome to NHL Wraparound Stanley Cupdate for Saturday, May 2nd, 2026. Vic and Neil, first weekend, month of May. There was theater in Montreal on Friday evening, which was just beyond spectacular. And for those people that were watching that Knicks-Hawks 50-point spread at the end of the first half on Thursday night, you want to see what drama looks like. We saw it on full display at the Bell Center in Game 6 with the Lightning having to win in order to stay alive.
Nobody does it better than the Montreal Canadiens in the Bell Center, and this was another example of it. The fans were absolutely rabid. They were happy. They were standing. They were cheering. They were waving towels. It seemed like there was not another color in the entire building but red. It seemed like that anyways when you saw shots up into the stands. And the game gave you everything you could possibly ask for in a hockey game. Not a lot of scoring, admittedly, but that's not what you normally ask for in hockey. Hockey is, low scoring, tight games are the best. And this was both.
You don't need a 6-5 game to say it was a great hockey game. And this was scintillating throughout. Yesterday, we talked about that Andrei Vasilevskiy would probably have to be the best player on the ice in order for Tampa to win and bring that series back home for a 7th game. He was absolutely off the charts good in this one. It was almost like he refused to let Tampa lose.
He was what he is, which is a Vezina Trophy caliber goaltender, and he's been that way for Tampa for many years now. He played at his best when they needed him the most, and that was yesterday, and he got a shutout on enemy ice on a game that could have eliminated them from the playoffs, and now it heads back to the friendly confines of Tampa.
I thought the first 4 minutes of the game was going to tell you all you needed about what this night was going to be, because Radish took a shot that went off Dobish's mask, and then puck was turned over to Yanni Gourde, who missed the net on the backhand, and Cole Caulfield hit a goal post, and then Gensel hit a goal post. This was what the entire night was. Just complete back and forth hockey, tremendous action, great chances on both sides, and it didn't let up for the entire night.
Right into overtime, 4 periods of it. If you have a problem with last night's Tampa-Montreal game, you got problems.
In the third period, Alexander Texier had almost the identical opportunity that he had when he scored his game winner in Game 5, but instead of going long side this time, he went short side on Vasilevskiy, and his shot hit Vasilevskiy in the shoulder and then the goalpost. And I thought it was very intriguing that it's the same player in the same spot, almost at the same time during the game, with a chance to put his team ahead, but this time it didn't go for Montreal.
No, and he went to the other side, probably because he had scored on the glove side and figured I better go to the other side. He knows I went glove side last time. Texier has been super for Montreal, by the way, since they picked him up from St. Louis. Can't understand why St. Louis didn't like him, but he has been great for Montreal.
What'd you think when Gensel drew a slashing penalty when he was in alone on Dobish, and during the course of that power play, both Kucherov and Gensel banged the post, but then there was a missed high stick on Mike Matheson, who kind of swatted up in the air, clipped Braden Point, clearly cut him, and nobody saw it.
Nobody saw it, and there was some kind of explanation going on to John Cooper from the referee that incensed him. I think they discussed on the TV whether or not the referees thought it was a follow-through, which it wasn't part of a follow-through. He was trying to swat the puck out of the air, but it looked like that's what they were trying to tell Cooper because he was incensed. And, of course, the camera goes down, but just below John Cooper is where Braden Point is sitting with blood all in his teeth. And so that was a missed one. And for all the things they call that are crap, like the slashing where the guy couldn't even feel it, or the tripping where it's obvious that he didn't mean to do it, or something, for all that crap that they call, they miss a guy almost getting his teeth knocked out.
And Dave Jackson wasn't buying it that this was a follow-through. I mean, this was a miss. This was a clear miss. So, and then with 3:18 left, Ivan Demidov, who I thought was also terrific in this game and had 7 or 8 shot attempts, gets caught with goalie interference with 3:18 left. And I'm wondering also if maybe this was a little bit of a makeup for that missed call.
You could go either way on this one, depending on who you wished would either get the power play or let it be called off, because Demidov couldn't stop when he got to Vasilevskiy, but it's incumbent upon the player to stop himself from crashing into the goalie, and he wasn't pushed into him, so I guess that's why they felt they had to call it.
The penalty gets killed off, and these two teams go to overtime for the 4th time in this series. 99% of this series has been tied or within a goal. I mean, that's how thin the margin is. And 5.5 minutes into the overtime, Nikita Kucherov, who we're going to talk about more in a second, trips Carrier, and coming out of the penalty box, he's in all alone on Dobish, and it's his 17th shot attempt in the game. And he was a guy that everybody was looking for to raise his game because he wasn't great in game 5, really in towards the end when Tampa Bay was trying to tie that game. But boy, he brought it from start to finish in this game.
I don't agree with you. I don't think so. I didn't like him at all, Kucherov. I thought he was careless with the puck. He threw it away during the power plays. Yes, he jumped out of the penalty box and he sort of got through the Canadians, but he didn't get a good shot off. I didn't like his game.
17 shot attempts.
I don't care. I didn't like
his job is to score. Oh, I thought he was terrific.
Well, not me. For what he should be able to do, for the amount of times he threw the puck away.
Yeah.
He did throw it away many times because he's got that thing in his head where he goes, okay, when the puck gets to me, I'm going there. And he goes there no matter what. And Montreal was right there a lot of the time. And I just thought, I've seen him play so well. I just didn't think this was one of his good games. I didn't think that he raised it to where the Tampa Bay Lightning needed him to raise it to.
Well, we're going to see for Game 7 because that final game was set up at 9:03 of overtime. Dominic James getting the puck in front to Gage Gonzalez, and he bangs in his own rebound. Overall, an attempt edge of 90-66 for Tampa. And while I thought that the Lightning had more attempts during the game, I thought the quality of shots actually was an edge to the Canadians.
And what were the actual shots on goal?
Very close.
Yeah.
Very close.
Because I go more by shots on goal than attempts. Attempts, you miss the net. It's an attempt, but wraps around the corner and goes all the way down your own end. Is that something that should be a positive?
It was 33-30 for Tampa. So
there you go.
Make your judgment there. All right. Game 7, 6 o'clock Sunday on TNT. And it is the last chance for a Canadian team to avoid a cup drought that would now extend to 33 years.
And it is the team that won it 33 years ago.
Yes. I was there.
So was I. Montreal Forum.
How did you get home that night?
Montreal Forum.
How did you get through the broken glass that night?
Yeah, it was bad in Montreal that night. Organized crime had their way with the town. It was not good. But that was the last cup in the Forum, and there hasn't been one at the Bell Center. Actually, the cup has not been won at the Bell Center by either team.
No. Had a chance in 2021 when Tampa Bay played the Canadians in the final that year. So, at any rate, the winner of this game will face the Buffalo Sabres, who take out the Bruins in Game 6 at TD Garden. It is the Sabres' first series win in 19 years. And as good as Andrei Vasilevskiy was, which he certainly was, Jeremy Swayman was the only reason that the Bruins stayed in this game in the first period, because Buffalo started quick once again. Rasmus Dahlin to Alex Tuch at 3:25. And then later on, it was Matthias Samuelsson throwing a puck through a screen of about 4 players. But if not for Swayman, this game would have been 4-0 going into the intermission, the same as it was in Game 4.
Interestingly enough, Tuck's shot there, or tip, basically, when Dahlin centered it to him, was the first shot on net by either team. And it remained 1-0 for a couple more minutes before both teams started shooting the puck.
What was your impression during the course of this game about the Sabres' kind of ability to exercise their will on the Bruins? Because Boston was a very game opponent in this. And considering all of the Sabres' history, and granted, none of the players were there the last time they made the playoffs in 2011, needless to say. But I thought that Buffalo really stayed on point in this game. David Pastrnak created a turnover early in the second period and converted on a pass from Pavel Zacha to make it 2-1. But I never thought that the Sabres lost their game at any point during the night.
I didn't think so either. I thought that the Sabres really controlled themselves, their game, and were clearly the better team. It never seemed like Boston was going to be able to win this game.
I did think that the Bruins game was good throughout the balance of the second. They started strong in the third to try to pull even. But, boy, you talk about making sacrifices for your team. Early in the third period, about 6 minutes in, Josh Stone outraced Pastrnak for a puck in the offensive left wing corner and absolutely got pasted by Charlie McAvoy, but still got the puck in front to Zach Benson for that insurance goal. That kind of capsulizes what sacrifice in Stanley Cup hockey is all about.
Yeah, it sure does. That was one of the final nails in the coffin.
At that point, I was kind of looking to see if Buffalo would either sit back or continue to have pressure in all 3 zones. And I thought their attention to detail was outstanding. And then Josh Norris with an empty net goal with 3 minutes and 20 seconds left. But how this game ended was a little bit disturbing also, because Benson took out McAvoy's feet, and then Bruins defenseman returned with a wicked slash, which could garner some disciplinary action that carries into next season.
And Benson gets under the skin of the opposition. There's no doubt about it. Little guy there. And McAvoy can do the same thing. So they're both guys that with quick tempers, and that's how this ended. That shows you the intensity of the series.
How about Alex Lyon? Came in Game 2 for Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen and delivers a 1.14 goals against average and .955 save percentage to close out this series.
What did Keith Tkachuk call him on the show? The Lion King, they called him when he was in Florida. Yeah. He's had a lot of different stops. Never been able to crack being a number 1 goalie, but continues to continue and play well wherever he goes. And he certainly has been great support. It'll be interesting to see now what Lindy Ruff does about the goaltending. Does he go back to Luukkonen, or does he stay with Lyon in the second round?
And I believe that series against either Montreal or Tampa Bay will open up on Tuesday. Last game of the night, the Vegas Golden Knights put away the Utah Mammoth with a 5-1 win. They win this series in 6. They will play the Ducks in the second round. They've never met in the playoffs before. During the course of the regular season, Anaheim actually won all 3 games between the clubs, 2 of them coming in overtime. I thought this was a very professional win by the Golden Knights. And the Mammoth certainly have had a terrific season, and I think this is just the beginning of good things for them. But what were your overall thoughts of this game, how both teams played?
I thought this was Vegas's best game that I've seen them play in the playoffs. I've been disappointed in Vegas in their inconsistency, and I thought this was a very consistent game. This is probably exactly the way John Tortorella wanted them to play. They never really gave the Mammoth a sniff. Mammoth did get the one goal, but the game was never in doubt.
The scoring opened with another one of those goals that caromed off the end boards. It was a Mitch Marner shot coming off a neutral zone turnover. And it's Brett Howden, the hero in game number 5, putting it in 15:02 of the first period. But the real killer in this game, because this was very even through the second period, was in the final minute of play. Utah was pinned in their own zone. They had 4 players out on the ice for 2 minutes and 45 seconds plus, and the other player was out for over 2 minutes. Vegas was able to change twice during the course of that period, and it was Ivan Barbashev to Marner who went high glove with 45 seconds left. And for my money, Morren was absolutely outstanding in this game. And I think when you talk about the consistency that you were looking for Vegas, I think he was one of the players that really had to deliver. And this by far was his best game of the series.
Could you dial 416 area code and let everybody there know that this guy shows up in the playoffs? Because I remember them saying when he was leaving Toronto, thank you, Mitch Marner, for 6 great regular seasons or whatever the number was. And very unfair. Yeah, very, very, very unfair to Mitch Marner, though, to suddenly say, well, his lack of production in the playoffs are the reason we're here. So goodbye, who cares? It was silliness. 7 shots on goal for Marner last night. Terrific game. Lifted the team. By the way, on the other side, we've got to give credit because Clayton Keller, the captain of the Mammoth, he also had 7 shots on net. But Marner was terrific in this game.
Utah gave what I think was going to be an expected push. They had 6 out of the first 7 shots in the third period, and a little less than 8 minutes in, nice stretch pass from Mikhail Sergachev to Keller Yamamoto, and his shot kind of got in under the arm of Carter Hart, who was very good. But about midway through the period, this is where more detail comes into play. Face-off win by Nick Dowd, and it's Colton Sissons banging home. Rebound of a Braden McNabb shot to make it 3-1, and then a power play soon after that. Jack Eichel wins the face-off, and it's Mitch Marner with his second of the game, putting home a rebound of a Shea Theodore shot, and that put the series away, and then Cole Smith with the empty netter. So I thought for Vegas to hold that lead and actually extend it outward, this was a real solid period after they kind of fielded that initial push by Utah.
Absolutely. And don't forget, folks, they did this game on the road. This was in Utah. This is not an easy one. Utah is fighting for their life. And Vegas came in and said, nope, we're ending it here tonight. And they did that in a very business-like fashion. Mitch Marner comes up with 2 goals, 1 assist, 3 points. And as you had said, best game of the series for Marner, probably his best playoff game for quite a while. Again, I'm not blaming him for what went on in Toronto, but it was his best playoff game. So Vegas moves on. They get the Anaheim Ducks, and that will be quite a series as well. I don't know if anybody expected this series to happen because I don't know how many people expected Edmonton to go down to Anaheim. I think everybody did expect Vegas to beat Utah. I say everybody, I mean the majority of people. But everyone probably thought, most people thought that Vegas would play Edmonton in the second round. But no, it's going to be Anaheim.
Before we leave this, I think the lessons to be taken out of this for Utah in this series, which when you look back, there were a pair of 5-4 overtime wins for the Golden Knights in games 4 and 5. And these were games that Utah led in the third period and let get away. And this is one of the hard parts about being in the playoffs for the first time is you might win, But if you lose, there are some valuable lessons that you're going to take out of it. And certainly losing those leads is something that's going to make them stronger next season. But also on special teams, Neil, do the math here. Total goals in this series, Vegas 23, Utah 18, a difference of 5. Special teams, Vegas 4 power play goals and 2 shorthanded goals. That's 6. Utah, 1 power play goal. So that's a difference of 5 also. That's where your series gets decided.
Yeah, for sure, because special teams are so important. Vegas had the upper hand on that. And clearly Vegas was a better team. And I thought Vegas, started to get more consistent as the series went along. They had the coaching change. And now they seem to be way more consistent. And it's going to be interesting to see with Anaheim. Anaheim, who can score in buckets, but it's not great defensively. How will this turn out with a team like Vegas that, if they play like they did last night, I don't give Anaheim much chance. But can they play like that for 4, 5, 6 games?
Well, we're going to get to that in our second round preview with Craig Button on Monday. And of course, there are going to be 2 series that will have already started, but we're still going to have a great conversation there. So the second round is opening on Saturday. It's Philadelphia, Carolina, game 1, 8 o'clock on ABC. And it appears that both Nikolai Ehlers and Alexander Nikishin will be able to go for the Hurricanes. Both were injured in the 4th game of that opening round series against Ottawa. Both practiced in regular jerseys on Friday, so they should be ready to go. And another series that's going to be starting on Sunday will be Minnesota at Colorado. And that game will be played at 9 o'clock Eastern on TNT. So Neil and I will make our predictions on Monday's show along with Craig Button. Craig has actually sent us his picks for both the Carolina Philly series and the Colorado Minnesota series. And we're going to be sticking to them. We'll have full disclosure on Monday. Neil and I have already made our picks, but we're going to save them for the show. You like doing it that way.
I like to build up the crescendo.
Well, speaking of crescendos, why don't you go over the records of our predictions last night?
Well, you're having me do that simply because I was wrong twice and only right once.
Damn right.
Because you took the obvious. I mean, you took the favorite each time. I took the other team. I said it yesterday. I took Tampa. You took Buffalo. I said, okay, then I'll take Boston. You took Vegas. I said, okay, I'll take Utah. So you win 3-1.
As somebody once told me, even a blind squirrel finds a nut on occasion.
Even a broken clock is right twice a day.
There you go. Let's just unearth all of these. Jack Adams Award for Coach of the Year. Those nominees were announced on Friday. John Cooper, Tampa Bay Lightning, Dan Muse of the Pittsburgh Penguins, and Lindy Ruff, 5-time nominee and winner in 2006. Who's your winner?
Dan Muse.
I think the sentimentality of Cooper not having won and having to deal with his backline decimated all season long, I think it's time that he finally wins. I think it's a little bit too soon for Dan Muse to win, even though did a tremendous job, really exceeding all expectations with that Penguin team.
Just so that the listeners have this clear, this isn't who we emotionally say should win. This is who we think will win.
Yes.
Okay. So you think the writers...
So Ruff is winning.
So you think the writers will vote for John Cooper over Muse and Ruff?
I do.
Okay. I think they'll vote for Dan Muse. I'm not sure that Dan Muse deserves it. I think John Cooper deserves it the most. But I think that Dan Muse will win it.
A couple of other pieces of news. Pending St. Louis Blues RFA, Dylan Holloway extends by 5 years at $7.75 million AAV. and pending Penguins unrestricted free agent Evgeny Malkin intends to return to play for his 21st NHL season. Whether it is going to be in Pittsburgh or not remains to be seen. Teammate Chris Letang has 2 more years left on his deal, and Sidney Crosby's contract expires at the end of the 26-27 season.
But you read what Crosby said about Malkin. He is part of the family. He doesn't want him to go anywhere. He said something like, he's got to be here. He's part of our family.
I'm going to drop that in the lap of Kyle Dubas and see if they can work out a deal. Reach us individually at Neil@NHLWraparound.com or Vic at NHLWraparound.com. We're on all podcast platforms, including Apple Podcasts, Amazon, iHeartRadio, Spotify, and YouTube. Leave a review or subscribe. We will continue to run polls throughout the Stanley Cup playoffs. You can also find us on X, Instagram, TikTok at radiate.tv and buzzer.com. That's BZZR.com. Our website is NHLWraparound.com. And our spring cleanings from teams that were eliminated in the opening round will resume next week on Quick Takes. I think we want to put those out as kind of smaller content as opposed to putting them in the Stanley Cupdate shows, so they're easy for you to find. All 32 of our spring cleanings will be posted in July separately in advance of our summer coolers coming in August. So, on behalf of Neil, I'm Vic. Enjoy Game 1, Carolina and Philadelphia on Saturday, and we'll be back to review that game on Sunday.